Hi, my name is Terry Kuti. I am the founder and director of Deep Sea Foundation. I want to welcome you back to our channel, our educational channel, where we talk about topics related to breast cancer and breast reconstruction. I have some really special guests today, and I have to tell you, this is a new setting for me post-pandemic. It's been a long time since I've been able to sit side by side with my guest, and I'm in San Antonio. So I am back where I had my deep flap breast reconstruction. On Saturday, the reason I'm back, on Saturday, which is in a couple of days, right? They're having a celebration of performing over 10,000 flap surgeries, which is an amazing accomplishment. I want to salute them for their work and all the passion and care that they have given breast cancer patients. And part of why this video is so unique this morning is because one of my guests, Pat Gonzales, she had her deep flap here as well. I had Dr. Crisopolo, and Pat, you had Dr. Garza, and I'm joined by her husband, Phil. So I want to welcome you both to the Deep Sea Foundation channel this morning.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, you're very welcome. This is kind of like a reunion.
We're kind of honored to be your first guest back in person. Okay.
I know, it's kind of special. So the story that I want the viewers to know about today in our video, I've known Pat for a little bit, since we're both PRMA patients, graduates, if you will. And I talked to many women who have been affected by breast cancer, who have had reconstruction, or after their breast cancer experience, it had such great impact on their life, physically, emotionally, professionally. It has a profound impact on women who go through this. And I know it did for both Pat and I. I started my nonprofit foundation, and I had no idea that that's what I would be doing after my diagnosis and after my deep flap. Today, we're going to focus on what Pat and Phil have done after she got through all of her reconstruction and her breast cancer. It is quite a story. So I am just going to let them take over and tell us all about how they started Rosa's house here in San Antonio. Take it away.
Well, for those that may not know, Rosa's house has become a destination location for women that travel from outside the San Antonio area to San Antonio for their reconstruction and have a place to stay that is private, peaceful, and we've been told aids in their recovery. That's totally an emotional and mental thing going on because it's just a little house full of miracles. What happened was in May of 2017, our longtime neighbor, Rose, passed from the side effects of cancer. She had recovered cancer. It was pancreatic cancer, but she also had a bad heart. And unfortunately, through chemo, it took wear and tear on that little heart that was very big, and she passed. So Phil had always wanted to have some real estate. Unfortunately, we were able to acquire her little house. That happened in September of 2017. Well, we had plans of going gung-ho into remodeling and reconstruction until October of 2017, after a slight vacation that he reminded me I hadn't had my mammogram yet. We found out that now I had cancer too. So that took on a 2-year journey through radiation and then finally saying these girls didn't have a future. And when these girls,
Yes,
these girls have a future. The ones that used to live here. So
good analogy.
we went through the reconstruction process. Well, in the process, through Terry and her site and meeting other women that were traveling here. One lady, I took a goodie bag to her hotel, and here was this little hotel room, and they had a recliner added to it. So there was really no room in this little hotel room. And I went home and told Phil, I said, that's just so wrong. And we met another lady who reminded us the only place she had to walk were the floors of the hotel. And to have tubes and coming out of you and basically in a robe was like, no, this is just, couldn't do that. So,
You know what? I get that. Because Rosa's house was not available in 2014 when I had my surgery. I would have gone there.
well, I mean,
This is-
granted, you
yeah.
could rent an Airbnb, which I
Yeah.
think you did.
I did.
And then you could also rent a lift chair. But we have Rosa's house equipped with, now through the graciousness of one of our guests, we have 2 lift chairs, a commercial grade shower chair, and everything that we've tried to think of that could make a little house comfortable. The best story we got told recently was from Tian's husband. Remember what he told us?
Well, we're
Okay,
gonna
well,
let
let me
Pat-
remind you.
we're gonna let Pat, because Phil's gonna just sit quietly and listen, but we're gonna draw him into this in a minute. So we're just gonna-
Eventually.
eventually, yeah.
He gave us valediction of what our goal was. And that was, he said, once we arrived here, his wife was very stressed prior to getting to San Antonio. We'd talked to her on the phone, we'd emailed with her, and you could just feel the tension in her. And justifiably so. This particular person traveled from Canada. So she was not only going a long way from home, she was leaving her country. She was going to a place she was unfamiliar with. She knew about the surgery, but she didn't know really about the surgery. You don't know until you go through it, because everybody reacts differently.
Right.
So there was just too much going on. And then she was going to be staying in this little house she'd seen pictures of, but you know how it is when you rent an Airbnb or a hotel. Sometimes pictures do not quite give it justice. So she was stressed about that part.
Yeah.
3 days after they arrived, her husband told us, you guys have thought of everything. You've thought of things we didn't think of.
Because you walked the walk.
Been there.
Yes. Yes.
And he said, so it's so nice now. She doesn't have anything to worry about. All she has to do is recover.
Wow.
So that just was the validation that we had prayed for. You just go through things, and if you're lucky enough to have ears to what's going on around your life, when we've gone through the journey and learned what we learned, we went to church, and there was a visiting minister there one day. Never had seen him before, haven't seen him since. But his message was, if you are hearing something, don't worry about the how, which is what we were doing. We felt we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to create this little house to be an accommodation for people. But we didn't have a nest egg set aside. We were not on a planned budget. We were just kind of scratching our way to get it done. But said, don't worry about the how. God will take care of that part. Just proceed with what you are hearing you need to do.
You knew what the why was.
You just didn't know about the how.
We knew the purpose that
Yeah.
it had to be a purpose.
Yeah.
And that was the purpose, and to create a home that would accommodate people that were coming to San Antonio for breast cancer surgery. And so that gave us focus. And we concentrated. I don't like to ask for help. Never have. But when we started this journal, somehow the word got out that we were what we were doing. And the outpour of love and support was overwhelming. And so, like Pat says, when there's a voice talking to you and it says, there should be a purpose, listen to it. Don't struggle with the house as much as focus on the purpose, and then see where it leads. It'll probably lead you down the road to help others, which is what we enjoy doing. That is helping others.
You know, I have to tell you, when I hear you saying things like that, so we're in an office space right now, there's a printer going off, so that's the added noise. What I want folks to understand, Phil, given everything you said, you followed your purpose, you followed your passion, but it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of ups and downs to this. And so I want to acknowledge what you guys have done for others, but I do want to ask you a question, Phil. How do you think, because you were Pat's caregiver during her reconstruction, how do you think Rosa's house is filling a need for caregivers? Because to me, they're such an integral part of recovery, and that caregivers can take on many forms. You know, there's women who don't have family members and they go home to their single home and they might hire help. So it could be in the form of hired help, it could be in the form of family, it could be in the form of friends. But how do you think Rosa's house helps the caregiver in this situation?
Well, it allows the caregiver to focus on the loved one. It takes away the stress of having to be concerned with other things. This is strictly a focus on your patient. And that, I think, helps a great deal with providing a relaxing, safe environment. So you don't have to worry about this going wrong or that going on, or do I need to go get this, or I need to go get that. It's all right there.
Yeah.
The basics.
Right.
And so I think that's part of the service that Rosa's house helps to provide.
Well, and you know, something else too that I think about, if for my husband, he came with me and we stayed at the Airbnb, if you don't have your home to take care of, or all of the duties that go with being at home, being at Rosa's house makes it a little bit simpler for the caregiver too. They can kind of focus, like you said, on the patient, but also just have a quiet space for themselves too, to, you know, have a little downtime themselves. So there's that element.
There is, and then here's something that it provides for the caregiver. Since nowadays we have a lot of folks who work from home.
Yes.
If the caregiver has to continue with his employment, communicating with the second bedroom or the living room provides a quiet space for them to set up an office and continue to work undisturbed.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about anything else. We've got it all set up. Wonderful Wi-Fi connection. So they're not having to look for signal. It's there. So they can sit and continue to work and know that they're still meeting the requirements of the employer.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
Well, he's shortchanging himself too. Because he was the best caregiver. He still is. But what he does is he lets the caregiver that comes with our guest, he tells them up front, he said, I'm here for you. I'm as near or as far away as you want me to be. These are some of the things that I figured out the hard way going through what we did with Pat. and he shares what he knows or what he did with them. And he makes sure that they have his phone number and lets them know if you have any questions or concerns, I'm here for you. If you just want to talk, I'm here for you. He's met out in the out on the front lawn with quite a few guys, just talking guys. Because and you know, because sometimes I would think the caregiver, especially if it's a guy, he's kind of shoved to the side. Like,
That's,
okay, we're paying attention to you, and you are our focus,
Mhm.
but you just are here to drive the car.
Yeah, I sometimes refer to caregivers as the quiet unsung heroes.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap this up. I think that we could talk on and on about the beauty that Rosa's house provides, and it is here in San Antonio. So tell us real quickly how they would get a hold of you. I know that you book out because you work with the patients that come to PRMA from out of town. So how would they get a hold of you?
The most direct and easiest way is to call or text 210-875-1895. You can Google Rosa's House LLC. If you don't put in Rosa's House, you might get either a funeral home or a florist. So it's Rosa's House LLC, a home away from home for breast cancer warriors.
Okay, that's a mouthful. What we can do is add that at the end of the video so that the viewers know. I want to thank you both, not only for what you have done for breast cancer patients, but providing this story of inspiration today. And like Pat and Phil both said, you may feel a different calling after you've gone through breast cancer. I know we both did. You can add whatever you want, my dear. Go right ahead and I'll finish up.
I just want you to know, I was 67 years old when I was diagnosed. I was 68 when I went through the surgery. It wasn't until I was 70 years old that I learned what our passion, what our calling in life was supposed to be. And that is a blessing. Sorry about how it took us to get there, but it was a journey well spent.
Yes, and I think to finish my previous comment is to thank you for answering the call and to encourage others. No matter how you do it, no matter how you answer it, big or small, if there's a need that you're feeling to give back,
Do it. Just follow it.
just follow it. Thank you guys both for being on the Deep Sea Foundation channel today. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
And thank you for all you do. I didn't learn about you until after my surgery, but it's so nice to have you before.
So lace up your shoes, Phil and Pat, and I'll see you Saturday morning for the 10,000 10K race, celebrating the flat surgeries at PRMA.
Thank you.